Welcome everyone and welcome to our last review of the last car added in Season 3 of iRacing. Yes, believe it or not, your eyes are not deceiving you. That is a brand new Porsche GT3 car, the 992. Doesn't look really any different from its predecessor, the 991. It has a slightly larger engine and probably other elements in this car that have been improved. I'm not that knowledgeable on this particular car, but the engine size is particularly what stood out to me, going from a 4 litre to a 4.2. But this car, similar to how it was when the Ferrari GT3 got updated, has caused a little bit of a mini storm online again, because iRacing hasn't offered this car to those who owned the 991 for free. Now, the 991 has been on the platform for a couple of years now and was a brilliant car to drive. Not a great car to drive now in its current state, in my personal opinion. It definitely feels like it's a very different car to then when it was first released, due to balance of power updates and numerous, I imagine, just changes to it over the years. I don't race GT3 cars enough to really know specifically what they are, but the big standout for me was that just felt really loose on the rear. Very different to how it was when it first came out. It was a big favourite of mine, to be honest. I actually raced GT3 cars quite a lot when the Porsche came out. So I'm intrigued to see how this feels in relation to the 991. Is there enough of a difference here to kind of make it feel warranted that this deserves our money? Because iRacing haven't offered this even free to people who have recently purchased this car. They've only offered it at a discount. So yes, that has also rolled a few people up. Of course, if this is the only car that you've purchased and you've got participation credits, etc., there are ways that in essence content doesn't cost you anything, but it's kind of the principle behind it, isn't it? So yeah, I'm intrigued to see how this feels. Now, I'm not a prominent GT racer, but the track that I raced at most recently in the GT3 cars was the Ultrawide. So this is where we are taking it. I think that the Ultrawide is always a true test of any car, but specifically a GT3 car, and we'll truly be able to see whether or not this is different in regards to handling, performance, to the 991. So yeah, let's head into it, guys. Remember to hit the like and subscribe button, and let's take this for a drive around the Ultrawide. Right, let's take this out for a little spin round the Ultrawide. Let's see what it's like out the box. And is it worth your hard-earned cash? So just concentrate on taking this first sector. Obviously tie it around here. We have got cold tyres, full tank of fuel, using the baseline Ultrawide endurance setup that iRacing have provided. Lots of understeer through there. Okay. Alright, let's take this corner and then just give you kind of my first impressions on those couple of corners at least. Interesting. Okay. Seemed quite balanced. Of course, you can't judge a car after the first couple of corners on cold tyres, full tank of fuel, and only a couple of corners. But you know what we're like, sim racers. We're very fickle people. We make our mind up on cars very quickly. We don't feel something's right kind of instantly. Let's get through the foxhole. Oh, missed the apex. You'll not be surprised, guys. I'm not the fastest GT driver in the world. I'm probably around where my I rating suggests I am when it comes to GT cars. Don't race them too often. But the last time I did some serious racing in GTs, or a sizable amount, was around the Ultrawide. and it was in the BMW, and I had varying degrees of success in that car, and it felt the most stable round here. Obviously a very bumpy track, and well, this car, if it was on offer in its current state at the time, I would probably use this. Of course, this is just iRacing setup, so with plenty of setup shops getting their hands on this, the car will perform even better. But what I will say is, after not even half a lap of the Nordschleife, it feels a lot more balanced and planted than its predecessor, the 991. Now, that car I really did enjoy when it first came out. I raced it quite a lot, actually. It really gave me a love for GT racing again. And it felt like what this car does now. And unfortunately, the 991, over the last year or maybe a year and a half, I don't know how long it's been out for now, it feels like it's got very loose on the rear. It's very rear biased. And just after not racing it for some time, I was like, this isn't the car that I fell in love with. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. I do think it's not the car that it was when it was first released. iRacing, as we know, is forever playing around with the balance of power, the BOP, as it's commonly referred to on the GT3 cars. And there's a number of reasons for that. Kind of to reflect real-world performance, because they're not able to update the cars as regularly as they'd like in regards to bringing new cars to the platform, licensing issues, etc. But it's to try and keep competition fair, keep there from being a meta, shall we say, which is more commonly really known in kind of first-person shooter games and stuff, where it's the go-to car or go-to loadout if you're a Call of Duty player or fan. And unfortunately, what it does, it kind of artificially creates inaccuracies in the cars. That's my personal belief. There's guys who have raced these a lot more regularly than I am and will be more versed in that subject. And I think the Porsche 991 is evident of that. Of course, the cars retain certain characteristics. You can't change the build of the car in essence of the chassis and where the engine's placed, etc. But there's elements that you can, and that's what I feel like has happened with the 991. Now, this car, as I said, feels like how that car was straight out of the box. It feels planted. I don't feel like I've had to fight this car at all. I don't feel like I'm going to lose the rear at all. Now, I'm not pushing it to its complete max. It is a outlap in essence. And I'm also not that quick round the Nordschleife. What it does feel like is that more steering ratio is required, more input. There seems to be quite a bit of understeer. But let's change this to third person over the shoulder camera so that you guys can see what it looks like on the ultra-wide monitor. So it doesn't look too dissimilar to pretty much what the Porsche Cup car is like. Very similar dash. Just taking it nice and easy. But yeah, it definitely feels... doesn't feel loose at the rear whatsoever, which is a good thing. Which is a very good thing. But how long will that last for? That's the thing. How long will this car stay in its current state? And that's kind of the question, really, that I think you should be asking yourself if you're going to purchase this car. Because, yes, it is the updated version of the Porsche GT3. Yes, the 991 came out a couple of years ago. So, in essence, if you purchased that car a couple of years ago, you've probably got your money's worth out of it. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but paying $15, $16, however much it is for a car a couple of years ago, you most likely have, at least. But then there's that old furore that keeps popping up with this kind of purchase. When a GT3 car gets updated, should you get the updated car for free? Well, I'm in two minds. Obviously, iRacing offer a discounted price for those who have purchased it within a recent period and were not to know that this new car was going to be coming to the platform, which is the minimum that they should be doing. But then, of course, there's others like myself who have bought this car when it first originally came out and are kind of just getting a car that people believe isn't too different to the previous version, even if it was a couple of years old. And as I said, I can see both sides of the argument. On one hand, I can see why us, the customer, is frustrated and annoyed at a platform that we play and pay a monthly subscription for, and are paying for a car that in essence is just an update from the previous version. And the argument for not having to pay for this new update of the car is that when it comes to rescan of tracks, we don't pay for rescans. Once we've purchased a track, that's it. We own it. That is the model. That we own it, and they update it as they go along, which is part of our subscription. Or the rescans are funded out of our monthly subscriptions that obviously countless members pay. But on the other hand, I understand that there's probably costs associated with purchasing a new license or renewing the license to get this updated car, this version, being able to gain access to the data, to the car itself. I imagine Porsche don't do this stuff for free. And that cost needs to be recuperated. iRacing is a business. But then, can you justify that this car is severely different and that much of a newer piece of content than its predecessor? I'm not so sure, especially when they can alter how this car performs. To an extent. Obviously, there's limitations to that, as we previously mentioned. But yeah, it's a difficult one. I see both sides of the argument. Now, if I was not making YouTube videos, I would not have purchased this car. That is for sure. Oh, bit wide there. Concentration. Try not to bin it. I'm keeping my train of thought. Just get through this section. Oh, carry on again. I mean, I will say the one thing that is noticeable is that it definitely requires more steering input, especially on this setup anyway. Maybe it is adjustable. It's very... feels like I'm having to... the steering's very light compared to the other GT3 cars. and the 991. And that's me being on the recommended false feedback as well. Oh! Well, it was inevitable, wasn't it, really? I think that's not too bad, lasting that long. Good thing we've got the car to repair itself. But yeah, so overall, there's differences in how this car performs to the 991, but it feels solid, well balanced, and reminds me of how the 991 was when it was first released. As we know with GT3, if there's a car that the top guys pick up is the go-to car, is the meta, they're going to use it very quickly, and then very quickly the lower splits follow that, and then a balance of power update comes out and just alters what was good about the car in the first place, and makes it kind of irrelevant. So yeah, if I wasn't, I don't race GT3 cars anywhere near enough to be able to warrant purchasing this car on the regular if I wasn't making content. So I would say if you all, well, the thing is that the 991 now is going to be discontinued and put into, obviously into the garage pretty much. So if you race GT3s a lot and on the regular, it's probably worth your money, because it is the best car probably at the moment, or will be, especially when the guys get their hands on it and create some awesome setups. And then who knows from there? Is it cheeky on iRacing's part? Probably. But then you don't. Then again, they're a business, and I don't know the costs that are associated with having to rescan these cars or get a scan of these cars. The partnership with Porsche, etc., guarantee that they don't get it for free. So it's, yeah, I'm a bit torn. I'm a bit torn with what I would advise, to be honest. You just have to look at yourself and whether or not, I think, like every single piece of content on iRacing, are you going to get value out of it? Are you going to use it enough to make it worthwhile your purchase? If you are, then it's worth it. It is worth it. And look, we know the game with iRacing. We know their business model. We know how they work. The monthly subscription, the pieces of content 4 times a year. And there are some things that we do get for free. Like we've just been given Willow Springs for free content. So iRacing isn't like what it used to be in regards to being kind of take. I think before COVID and before the boom of iRacing, I think they were probably more on that side than they were giving. But since then, they've become a much better business, and they have really actually reinvested that money into some decent content for us and some good improvements on the sim. So yeah, take it as you will. If you're going to get value out of it and you're going to get use out of it, then the content is worth purchasing, in my opinion. And it does feel good. It does feel solid. But how long it's going to stay in this state for, I don't know. That's a question, obviously, for the guys who do the updates at iRacing. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like this car? Is it something you've tried already? And what do you think of the idea of having to pay for this if you've already got the 991? Intrigued to see what your thoughts are, guys. So yeah, hit me up in the comments below. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button, turn those notifications on, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye.